Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Largo podcast, otherwise known as the Late Afternoon Glass Off podcast. Joining me again, co-host and good mate of mine, Finley James. How are you, Finley?
Zachary, I'm good, thank you, mate. After what would only be described as a train wreck last night, me and you sat here till 10 p.m. and pretty much just dribbled until we couldn't dribble any longer and then made a pretty quick decision we couldn't post it. So we're back for round two. I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling better. Um, besides a quick bout of hay fever, but we'll get through it. Mate, haven't been up to much this week. Got back from Vanuatu late Friday night, about midnight. Went straight into work Saturday and worked Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So late day Tuesday, got some waves today. Surf Flat Rock, which is a personal favourite of mine around here. It's mostly garbage, but today was pretty fun. And yeah, not a lot else going on. The comp obviously called off. You're down at Bells. Tell us about your week. It's probably a bit more exciting than what I've been up to. What's been going on down there?
Yeah, mate. Here at Bells, I think we're up to day number 6 or 5 or 6. Fuck, I forget now. It's been that long, and we're only just past the elimination round for the men's and the women's. So, been a lot of downtime. It's been good though. I think for the athletes, it's been good as well as very tight scheduling between El Sal and Bells. So I think everyone's enjoying their time, kicking their feet up, getting some well-deserved sleep back. So no complaints down here, and did a round of golf today with Connor. So that was fun, but very challenging. And yeah, I'm still shit. That's the unfortunate truth of where I'm at with golf. I think if you follow along, you saw me swing a golf club a few months ago and it didn't go well, and I'm still at that stage, unfortunately.
Yeah, and was your current situation there, given you are quite top heavy, if that makes sense, is that a repercussion of your poor form today? And for those at home, Zach, do you want to stand up and just give us a rundown of what's going on there?
I won't stand up because that will get us banned. But yes, I'm in my underwear. The good thing about podcasting and cameras and things and Zoom meetings, like other meetings, like work meetings, it's usually shoulders up. And right now, I'm kicking it in my undies.
Beautiful, mate. How was Connor hitting him?
Yeah, we both had moments. We purchased because we're obviously hiring clubs and all that kind of stuff because we didn't fly down with it. We purchased some tailor-made balls. I think there was about 12 in the box, and by hole number 3, we were down to our last 3. So not good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's generally a sign that all is not well. Zach, the other thing that we did, which we told ourselves we wouldn't forget to do, which we have forgotten to do, is a social plug. And we've written it in bold letters at the top of the document. And once again, we didn't do it. So just while we're thinking of it, if you're at home right now listening on whatever app you're using to stream this, chuck us a follow if you can. It really means a lot to us. And also chuck us a follow and share on Instagram as well, or TikTok. Regrettably, we are on TikTok, but both of those handles are just at the Largo podcast. Like I said before, it really means a lot to us, guys. So thanks to those that have already done it. And your stay at Bells, you arrived Thursday. You're staying with Connor O'Leary, Ryan Callanan, and Dog Marsh, who you've said already is a bit of a character. He seems like a legend of a bloke, and he'd have some stories. But your stay started with a bit of a weird scenario, right?
Yeah, correct. I don't think I could have stayed with a better bunch of humans, to be honest. It's those 3 lads. They obviously travel together every event, and they've got their own squad. So to be a part of it has been fucking unreal. And yeah, they're just fucking great humans. What you see on the TV is the same as what you get behind the scenes. They're just good all around humans. But yeah, so we also had Dylan, which is Dog's son, stay with us. He just went to Sydney today. But yeah, when I arrived, we actually went straight to the Ain't That Swell live podcast on Thursday night. And the boys, I actually got back from that podcast about maybe 9 o'clock, and the boys were really jet lagged from El Sal. So I've arrived at a house I've never been to in the dark. without, seeing the lads. They were all asleep, and I've come into my room, and Connor said, "Hey, look, you're in a bed downstairs. You know, door's unlocked." And I went, "Cool." And I came in. It was a dark, long driveway, and I didn't really check the number. And I was like, "Oh yeah, this will be it," because Google's telling me it's it. And so I've put my stuff down, and then I've started unpacking, had a shower about 9:30, and Dylan, dog's son, walked into my room, and I hadn't met Dylan yet, and I actually didn't know he was here. And he opened the door and was like, "Oh fuck, sorry mate, I thought I left the light on." I was like, "Oh no, no, all good. How are you, mate?" And then he's like, "Yeah, good," and left pretty quickly. At that moment, I was unsure I was in the correct house. So for the last for the next 15 minutes, I was actually going back on Google Maps, going, "Am I actually at the correct address?"
Right.
And I went to bed that night thinking I may wake up in the morning and walk out into a living room full of strangers. But turns out I was in the right house, which was definitely a positive.
Beautiful, mate. Yeah, that would have been bizarre, I can imagine. We'll go. We've got our Bells sort of round one, I guess you'd call it, recap, because as has been the theme of the previous few events, we've had to spend a lot of time waiting to see some action. But before we get into that, we'll roll into our surface of the week. Now, do you want to let us know yours, Zach?
Yeah, so mine was an unsuspecting surfer, and I think I might have even cooked him in the. I won't say I've cooked him in the earlier podcast, but I was skeptical about his performances on tour this year, and it's Jackson Bunch. Yeah, I was doubtful at first. I didn't probably give him the credit he deserved, but yeah, the youngest surfer on tour is definitely shaping up to be someone that's going to be here to stay, in my opinion. He's such a brilliant surfer. He's so sharp and fast on his backhand, and he's starting to mimic Conor O'Leary, not just the look of him, but the way he surfs as well. There's been a few moments where I'm like, "Oh, there's Connor," and Connor's behind me, and I'm like, "Oh, fuck, sorry." And he'll even agree. That's not even a payout or anything. It's just he's doing so well, and I think yeah, he's just, I don't know, he's just starting to stand out a little bit more than probably I first thought on tour. Obviously, he had some big moments throughout the year. That big alley oop he did at the pool, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then, yeah, I just think he's showing these moments of flair, and he's really razor sharp, but still finds the flow a bit like Connor. He's not really like a cat on a hot tin roof. Like some surfers, when they get really fast, they become real jolty and like almost too quick, and they lose that flow aspect. Yeah, really impressed with Jackson Bunch at the moment.
Yeah, I pretty sure he checked the tapes, but when he qualified, I was pretty high on him straight away. I'd seen him surf, knew his backhand was incredible. Really, like you touched on, really fast, really sharp and precise. Knew he had an air game too, but I didn't realize it was as good as he was, and that he seemed to sort of announce himself at the wave pool as sort of the real deal. And he's just been sneakily sort of turning in a couple little results. So really good for him, and he's looking okay for the cut so far. So he'd be feeling really good about himself at this stage. My surfer of the week is I'm following the goofy foot trend, which is odd because we're at Bells and generally that's a natural footer dominated event. But my guy, and pretty much like it could be sort of seen as a bit of a cop out, but Italo Ferreira is just, he's mind blowing, that bloke. Like, and it's not even necessarily his performance. Like we saw round one get underway yesterday, and he surfed his first heat. He was the standout of the day pretty well, highest heat total. But it kind of wasn't that got me frothing on him. It was how, like, in the lay days, like given he's world number one, he's got all the motivation in the world to sort of be grinding when no one else is. But like you posted on our story, him surfing really tiny little, was that like Rincon or like the pretty much the inside section at Bells?
Yeah, Rincon.
Yeah, at Rincon there, and it was honestly like half a foot. There was no one inside. He was the only one out there, and he was doing like 3 or 4 turns on a wave. And it's just like, it's credit to him. Like he's just really on this year. The yellow jerseys never looked lighter on anyone, I don't reckon. Like he's not feeling any pressure, and the bloke is just killing it. So and he knows it as well. He's not afraid to tell people that he's killing it. If you've seen some of the posts that the WSL have been putting up, he's been pretty vocal in stating he's the best surfer in the world, and he's backing it up with his performances. So credit to him. We'll go from that into Zach. Obviously, we touched on before, you're down at Bells. It's been a bit of a slow start to the uptake now with the event and few lay days. How are all the athletes responding after a pretty big start to the year? Like, everyone's been traveling heaps, and they get to Bells now, and there's even more lay days. Has it been taken positively, or are people sort of a bit spewing about it? What's been the general vibe down there?
Yeah, there's definitely been a few dicey calls, and there's been some calls that were good, and there's been some calls that were bad. And when I'm referring to calls, I'm just talking about whether they surf or not. Unfortunately, they're on day one, I believe, or even day two of the period, the waiting period. It was the day, correct me if I'm wrong, it was when the twin fin challenge with Mick and Steph and Mason Ho was. I'm pretty sure it was day one or day two. Fuck, like I said, it's starting to drag on. They're all feeling the same. But regardless, on that day, they probably could have run a few more heats. There was definitely still contestable surf. The tide was coming in the afternoon, so they did anticipate the waves would get worse. But they could have got probably about 2 hours of surfing. So a few people on that call were like, it's a bit weird. And then the next day they called the event off because the wind was pretty horrendous. But what actually happened was there was an unforecasted Largo.
Yeah, right.
It went glassy and Winky started to fire up. So there's been a few calls where I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But obviously people just see it on the surface. And then that's probably hence why everyone's probably seeing on hold a lot more for this event, because the weather's been changing so much. It's typical Melbourne fucking weather. So a lot of the days they're going on hold, but what that does is it just kind of frustrates the surfers because they don't get to structure their day. Or, for example, if your first heat, you can't really have a big brekkie or a coffee and shoot yourself in the water half an hour later. So it's kind of annoying, but they're trying to say, hey, look, stick around in case of. So I totally get why they're doing it, but yeah, there is a bit of friction there. But it's surfing; you can't predict the weather, perfectly, and especially down here. So I think they're doing the best that they can. But yeah, in regards to the lay days, I think, like I said earlier in the episode, there's people who are loving it, and the majority are probably loving it because of the tightness of the scheduling. And Ethan actually and a few others got quite sick in El Sal. So they're loving that this thing's not running straight away because it's giving them an extra couple of days to get back on their feet, catch up on sleep. Ethan got quite sick. I don't think many people know this, but he lost a few kilos in body weight just because a bit of a viral infection went through and whatnot, maybe a couple dicey burritos over there in El Sal. But yeah, he was actually very unwell and he's only just coming back to 100%. So it's been a blessing for a lot of the crew with these days off.
Yeah, epic. Oh, that's good to hear as well. Like, especially Ethan, this is probably an event that he won 2 years ago. He's really looking to get his year. Like, he's already killing it. I think he's sitting in second or third on the rankings, but this would be one to really cement himself up the top. So it'd be good for him to obviously be at 100%. Also, you kind of touched on in our little note section, Bells is they're charging you to park down there. What's going on there?
Yeah, so Bells has been a paid event for a few years, but I feel like the general public around the world and around Australia don't actually know this. It's on private land and they charge for parking and for viewership. To walk into the event, to even see any waves at Winky or at Bells, you need to pay for a wristband. I think it's about $17 for a daily wristband and $5 to park. So not getting much change out of $30 for a day down here, it's the only event on the calendar where it's paid, obviously because it's private land and whatnot. But yeah, definitely an interesting thought because maybe this could be the way forward for surf contests and generating revenue because it is a low revenue stream sport compared to obviously things like football, baseball, basketball and F1 and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, maybe this could be bit of a Band-Aid rip-off, and we may see this again at other events, but obviously it's going to depend on the location and permits and whether you're actually allowed to put a fence up around a surf beach and say you've got to pay to come in. But interesting times.
And that leads itself as well to, obviously, like we've sort of said, all of the other surf events there are sort of free to watch, especially with the online broadcasting. And it seems to be a lot of the other sports that we watch, they're all sort of moving towards that subscription model now. It'd be interesting to see over the next few years if surfing heads that way too, whether you sort of have to, I don't know, through one of the applications like KO or something like that, you have to pay to watch the events. Like, have you heard any talk about that, or is that just...
Well, yeah, WSL are definitely open ears on everything. Their CEO, I forget his name, but um, he's come from very big companies what have done very successfully in that space, such as like Xbox and Netflix and stuff. So paid subscriptions, he would be all over. It's just tricky. I think it's a yes from me. I feel like the general public are going to want to pay, but how can you pay for 8 hours of webcast for 20 waves? That's the hard part. Whereas UFC, you pay for 4 hours, maybe 3 hours of all these different card fights and whatnot, and you know that it's guaranteed jam-pack action. It's just going to be tough to say, hey, look, it's $20 for the day and it goes for 8 hours and it might be pretty shit. So I feel like it's just the intricacies of the sport.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, it could be an avenue for athletes to sort of up their prize purses as well. Like, if they start getting a piece of the pie, that could be pretty cool. Obviously, we've been pretty fortunate to have it this long. Like, obviously, since they've been doing live streams, you've never really had to pay for them. I know sort of Stab have moved to that subscription model a little bit more now, and it's not with everything. It's just with sort of the more significant projects they do, they tend to put behind a paywall, which I think is fair enough. If you're spending all that money, you kind of need to make sure you're getting a return there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if I know you can watch the surfing on KO, like it's an option there to stream. So whether or not they sort of move it all behind a paywall eventually will be it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
that kind of goes into, like, do you think surfing is now bigger than ever? Like, is this kind of as big as it's been, or what's your sort of vibe on that from down there?
Well, it's funny you say that because Torquay, and I've been speaking to a few people that live here, has been buzzing, mate. There's been events on every night. There's been tracks parties. There's been live podcasts. There's been Peking Duck played the other day. So Torquay has been bumper to bumper. Obviously conscious that it's Easter long weekend and a lot of Melbourneites will come down to their holiday homes and bring their fucking Ferraris and whatnot. But it feels like the biggest Bells local viewership of any other date. So maybe it is booming, and maybe there is, room for the sport to grow in that capacity. But yeah, it's been busy. All the major surf shops are in the one location on the one street here at Torquay, and they've just been packed every day. So I feel like it's definitely going in the right direction, and you see so many more surfers out there. So yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of development in this kind of space with viewership and how big these events go. But I did hear this year that the event site itself is actually being downgraded to minimize their footprint. And as a result, all the athletes only get about one or two people to bring in with them to like the athlete zone, whereas other events are much bigger. Like I heard Portugal is a fucking ginormous event site because it's just on the beach. They can go as wide as they want. This one it's hard to get a wristband here. People are fighting over them.
And you've secured yourself one, mate. How have you weaseled your way into the event site this time?
Yep. So just here, mate. I've got a coach wristband, and yeah. So Connor works with Dogmarsh, and they do an absolute stellar job. So I'm more of like I'd call it your lifestyle coach. I drive him around, even though he doesn't need to be driven around. I cook him dinner, even though he doesn't need anyone to cook for him because he's a good cook himself. So some would say I'm just doing Jack Dilly squat, but yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You're the minister for vibes down there, aren't you? You're just bringing the good energy, making sure he's feeling good before his heat, some little back massage before and after.
Correct.
He's lucky to have you down there, mate. We'll get into like I say, we haven't run too much of Bells yet, so there's not much to touch on. But we did lose our first sort of, I think it's 6 athletes from the draw, 4 men, 2 women. Um, we've got a couple of standouts and disappointments each. I'll go first. My one, this is obviously just from round 1 of the men's, but I thought Ian Gentile looked amazing to begin with. He wasn't really on the best waves that were coming through. He maybe struggled in that regard a little bit, but on the waves he caught, he looked so sharp and so fast. And I'm really interested to see how he goes here. Like it's a bit of a wave that in the past has been dominated by people that have experience there. And look, do I think he'll win or even make a quarterfinal for that matter? Probably not. But look, he really needs a result. And based on his performance in that opening round, like he was picking poor waves but surfing them really well and getting scores still. I think he ended up with maybe 13 points, which for the day was pretty good. And he was a guy that sort of, I was like, oh, I'll watch his heat, but he really did stand out in that heat. So good on Ian.
Yeah, what I've noticed about Ian though is seems to be a bit of a lone ranger at the event site. It might just be this one. Obviously, every event you're going to have different people turn up, but everyone's got their corners. Like obviously the Brazilian team, they huddle together. They're tight as the Aussie guys, you know, larrikins all kind of joking around, and Ian kind of seems to be lone ranger a bit, and it might be paying off, or it might be he might fucking hate it. I don't know, but yeah, I've just noticed that he kind of sticks to himself a bit.
Yeah, well, he's kind of it's funny because he's Hawaiian, like Hawaiian born, I believe, or at least grew up there because that's where he kind of rose to prominence as a 13 or 14-year-old, where Andy Irons basically called him the best 13-year-old surfer ever, and kind of went on a bit of a sort of sabbatical after that. And you didn't really see him for quite some time, and then re-emerged in the last few years as a Challenger Series guy and broke his way on a tour, which was sick to see. But he also speaks Brazilian, and I know he's been on trips with guys like Iago Dora and Jack Robbo, and he was hanging out with a few of the Volcom guys last year or the year before in Fiji. So I was assuming that maybe his tribe, but yeah, interesting to note that he's just doing his own thing down there.
Hey, the Brazilians aren't going to let that one down. You just said he speaks Brazilian, not Portuguese.
Sorry. Portuguese. My bad.
That's the fastest way to get deported from a country without even being in the fucking country itself. They're
Yeah.
going to go to stamp your passport and just go, mate, are you that guy on that fucking shitty little podcast over in Oz who said we speak Brazilian?
Yeah. No, that's a shocker by me. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's all right. Everyone here is one of the smartest people I've actually fucking met, so no need to dwell on that one. But yeah, my next one for the standout for myself is Morgan Sibley. His opening round heat against Ethan and Seth. There was Ethan and Seth. It just looked like he had that attitude of I'm not here to, I don't need to prove anything. I've been here before. Obviously, he's done a full lap of the tour and made the final 5. And because he's a wild card, he actually can't accumulate any points. He doesn't have to worry about the cut because, well, he's getting cut after this event anyway. This one's just purely experience and cash. And I'm sure he's fucking going for the big cash like everyone would be. And it's translating into his surfing. He's just got this attitude of go big or go home. And I don't think he's going home anytime soon. He could shoot me in the foot and, the comp's going to run tomorrow and he could lose. But I just think he looks unstoppable out there and he looks a bit scary. So, yeah, I think he's going to be hard to beat. He's obviously got Nathan Hedge in his corner as well, who is no slouch and knows his way around the tour probably better than anyone. So, yeah, he's definitely got the ingredients to go pretty far and deep into this draw.
Yeah, he kind of seemed like he had that sort of Morgan energy from a number of years ago where he made the top 5 and basically burst onto the scene and just started taking names on tour. Looked really sharp. Again, probably similar to Ian in that regard. He was just throwing, like he got a high 6 for just one turn. Like really, really good to see. And he had Ethan in his heat, who obviously is probably one of the top 3 favourites to take this event out. And he didn't back down to him one little bit. Like he surfed up to him and actually surfed better than him, getting the win in that heat. really was on not the best waves and just surfed them up to scores that were enough in the end. And obviously they both progressed through. Ethan got a second, but he stamped his foot down on day one and showed that he's someone that if you're coming up against him in round 3, it's not a wild card where you're sort of going, oh, I've got this bloke on toast. Like he's going to give it to you. So fingers crossed for Morgs. He can keep progressing through the draw and making a bit more cashola as he goes. The next guy I've got, who was probably the other standout from day one, and he was my surf of the week too, was just Italo. He kind of just, I was almost writing him off a little bit. It looked a bit tricky, and haven't been a massive fan of his turns on bigger waves. I know he's obviously got an amazing small wave game. I just sometimes find he can struggle to hold his rail when it gets a bit bigger. But geez, was I wrong? Like he pretty much had the 2 biggest waves of his heat, of the day, in his heat, and he just smacked them all the way to the end. Just real clean rails the whole way, finished them off solid, and the highest heat total 15.6 around there. He just was just ready to go. So don't really need to touch more on him. He is absolutely braining it this year. Who's your next guy, Zach?
Yeah, just quickly on Italo, you're correct there. He is looking outstanding. He's looking really fit. The webcast at the moment isn't truly, because all the cameras are shooting downwards. Like the focus is, they're up high on the hill is what I'm trying to say, and they're shooting down to the beach at sea level. It makes it look smaller than what it is. And that opening round, what you're referring to, it was probably 6 foot sets. And he just looks strong. And when it's 6 foot and wobbly and choppy and whatnot, those bumps are very difficult to negotiate. And he did really well. So he's definitely looking fit. He's definitely looking dangerous. So yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from with one of the standouts. The next person who is a standout and seems to be carrying a lot of momentum from El Salvador, his second place, was Matty McGilvery. He looks fucking insane. Been doing some big turns. And yeah, I just think he's been doing like committing surfing, right? Like usually he sometimes gets stuck in that safe kind of look, but at the moment he's just been fucking flaring. And I think it was a couple of days ago, did that big turn, and he's looked like he almost fell off and regained. And yeah, it just looks like he's surfing outside of his skin at the moment. So good on the lad.
Yeah, he seems like he's taken that result at El Salvador, his second place that he got there, and he's brought it straight to Bells. He did, I believe, have to surf his way through the elimination round, but I mean, I don't know how he was there because he just looked so solid. So he's going to be another guy, maybe similar to Morgs, in that you don't want to draw him because he's maybe not the biggest name, but he's going to put 2 6s, maybe a 6 and a 7 on you every heat, and he's going to make your life really difficult. So yeah, good pick there. And another guy that's probably in a very similar category to Matt, who probably was the people's champ of that day of surfing, was Al Cleland. This bloke is not only giving me nightmares, but he's really given Philippe nightmares. Now, I stood to win a pretty substantial multi if Philippe got up there, and he absolutely just devastated any chance of that happening. Philippe, albeit did have a bit of a disrupted heat, which we'll get to, but God, man, like Al just smoked him, and he surfed against him in El Sal and smoked him there, and then he just came here and he probably went better, to be honest. It's a tricky place to, if you've never surfed there before, which I assume Al really hasn't spent many hours out in that lineup to go and pick waves at. And he picked 2 or 3 waves in his heat, which it didn't require him to do the Huntington hop through the middle. Like he just jammed it from start to finish, and you're kind of waiting for the wave to slow down, and it just didn't. It just gave him an end section, and I was really impressed by that because even some of the more noted guys out there, they weren't doing that. So for a guy that's, again, spent very little time there, he just took to it like a duck to water, and he's probably going to make it pretty difficult for a few people in this draw too.
And do you know what his recipe for success is? I've actually found out.
What is it? Is this an exclusive?
No. It's becoming common knowledge, but it's just a couple honest pale ales or a couple bevies, whatever he gets around. He's definitely not keeping it under wraps that he, is perhaps not following the traditional athletic route, which is go to the gym, smash a bunch of creatine, go to bed at 6:30 and after Big Dog goes to bed and wake up early and go for an early. He's kind of just enjoying life, and I fucking love it. And it's starting maybe to translate into his surfing because he's just having a bunch of fun. He's obviously traveling around the world with his mates. So I feel like he's just soaking that up. He's stopping to smell the roses, like a lot of people perhaps don't. For example, he went to the football. He went to the Geelong and Hawks game in at the MCG on the weekend and had a couple bevies. He said it wasn't too big, just a couple honest beers. And then last night, I saw him on the steps, and Connor was like, "Hey, did you smack a couple beers last night?" And he's like, "Yep, yeah, I went to Jack Pub. I just got home." And we're like, joking. And then he's like, "Ah, man, they're joking." And then he goes, "But I actually did have some beers, yeah, yeah." And we're like, "Oh, yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I had about 6 beers." So like 6 beers before an event is fucking pretty good. And
Yeah.
and then he goes out for a free surf this morning and fucking rips. So good on the lad, loving it. And that's maybe his remedy to success.
That's the recipe, hey? And I did see he was stood next to a few of the AFL players that were down at the event site. And I don't know if it was that the AFL guys are really tall or he's really short, but like, is he a tall guy or is he looked quite small?
He's not tall,
No.
but I wouldn't put him in a midget category. He's definitely stocky. He's definitely stocky, and that's evident in his surfing. He's fucking powerful. He's a powerhouse. So but no, that's just those AFL guys that fucking abnormally large.
They're just towering him. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll get into. We've got some disappointments now. I'll go straight from that, given he's in his heat, to Philippe. And look, maybe it is a forgive heat for Philippe. He had some board issues early on. He waited for a sec, got a bomb, and got to about his second turn and fell, sort of uncharacteristically, and then came in immediately afterwards. So I think he might have creased his board or lost a fin or something on that turn. So we'll let him off there. And he did, to his credit, he did regather himself and got a second place and progressed into the next round. But Jesus, man, like I may be sort of swaying onto your side of things here with the old Philippe 2.0 call. I don't want to jump off just yet because I know how good he is and I know he's got more in the tank, but is he past it? Like even in that heat, like he did get one eventually, and I think he did about 4 floaters on it and threw a claim up, and that's not Philippe. Like he's the kind of guy that's pretty much redlining the whole time and throwing his fins, and he's on edge the whole wave, and that's kind of why he is able to get those scores because the judges just like, you look like you're going to fall on every single turn and you just pull it out somehow. He didn't seem to be doing that, and I don't know if it's like a feeling with him right now or if it's his boards are not as good as they once were, but God, man, like I'm nearly jumping on board the Philippe 2.0 train.
Unfortunately, I don't want to be all aboard the Philippe 2.0 train. I want the best for everyone. I want everyone to fucking rip, but it's statistically there. Like, look at where he's at on tour and look at his performances. I just think there's something else. Most people find another gear, and when you hear that in sport, it's usually referring to going up in level or becoming better, and I feel like he's going down the gears, unfortunately. But look, you never know. He could prove us wrong and win this thing and win the next fucking 15. But yeah, I don't know. There just seems to be something different there. Not really sure what it is, but I'm sure he's probably trying to find out pretty quick smart how to fix it.
Yeah, and look, it's a pretty rogue time to be throwing these calls out because whether or not he does this really well here, I'm not sure. But the next event is at Burleigh, and you'd have to throw him in as your favourite for that event win. Like you've seen what he's done at Snapper; it's not too dissimilar to that wave, and really sort of sharp, long, steep right hander. He's going to probably do some damage there. So we'll leave it till after then to make a call. And then Caroline. Now she was kind of like I was pretty pumped to watch her this event because she does have a really good backhand and she does tend to do well at this event. She looked slow and she looked really tentative all her heat, all like the entirety of her heat. She wasn't squaring up. She was kind of almost really lateral surfing her heat. Like she kind of she almost looked like she was safety surfing a bit, and she found herself in a really precarious situation at the end where the wild card, Carly Shanahan, was in a situation where she could have actually overtaken her and knocked her out of the draw in the elimination round, which would have been absolutely massive. She didn't, but she would have not been feeling very good after that heat. And I'm sure if she has a coach, which I assume she does, there would have been no high fives after that heat. It would have been pull your head in, because she's not looking good.
Yeah, it wasn't a convincing win for Caroline, to say the least. But yeah, I still have her as the winner of this event for the women's on my side. Hopefully she can just brush it off and go again and win this thing for my fantasy, so I can actually overtake you for the first time since January.
Yeah, and look, with these world champs, and you probably got to give it to Philippe too, like, they're going to have down events, and they can't be on all the time. And Philippe's obviously had a few. Whether or not this is Caroline's, like, she could well just come out and win the thing. We're not sure yet, obviously, but look, we'll give her a bit of credit there, because it's only been early days and the waves have been pretty challenging. But yeah, from what I saw, it just was like, geez, you look a couple levels below where you've been at recently. And then the last disappointment, Zach, and I'll let you go through this one because you were on the ground when it happened. Ramso, what's the situation there?
Yeah, so this is we've put it in the disappointments, not because of his performance, but it's just a disappointing outcome for a surfer, and that's Ramsey Bukaim. He was coming in from his surf at the heat had finished, everything as per usual, and there's a little bit of like a flat rock shelf that's about 1 meter before the sand, the dry sand, and it's exposed by water. He was walking across that and it was exposed above sea level at the time, but then a wave has come and it's actually knocked him off his feet, and his foot has become lodged into the reef, and his body's kept moving. So that's resulted in what we think our intel is showing us. It was a dislocated kneecap. Fortunately, what we've heard so far is that the ligaments such as MCL and ACL are intact, maybe some light stretching, but it's looking like he's come off a little better than what was first anticipated. Obviously, when he was getting chaired up the beach or driven up the beach in the buggy, everyone was thinking, look, this is going to be bad. Like, I was actually, when they were filming it and when I saw him in person, I was actually bracing for like a deformality of the leg, like a full snap compound fracture. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. So yeah, he actually will be out of the event, and I think he'll be out for the remainder of the season, which is just absolutely horrific for him, seeing that he really does need a result. And so he won't get an opportunity to jump up the rankings. But just wanted to kind of highlight the time response from medical staff, we'll call them, seemed like ridiculously long. Luckily, it wasn't something more serious with blood loss or something like that, or a drowning event or something, because it seemed like the fucking buggy was bogged on the beach or something, because Xavier Huxtable and Idolo were actually there supporting him, trying to get him out of the water for felt like 5 minutes. And to be honest, I think a 5-minute call would be pretty spot on. So yeah, it was an interesting one, and I know logistically it's a hard location. The sand is incredibly soft. It's always got a shore break, so to get someone out is difficult, but the time taken between event staff getting to him was, a bit weird.
I picked up on that too, mate. And look, for maybe like if there ever was a shark attack, like those minutes could be the difference between someone living and dying, which I think maybe like they'll have a bit of a think about, and it might sort of persuade them to have something a bit closer to where it all goes on, because generally they're coming in at Bells there. They're mostly coming in at the same spot. So it's not like it's a surprise where they came in. But yeah, man, like they took an awful long time to get there, and credit to Zave and Idolo. They were on the scene and they were able to sort of get him up and sort of comfort him a little bit in the water there and stop his leg from moving. But yeah, look, in terms of Ramso, like it's super heavy, but from what it could have been, it's best case scenario for him. And it's such a shame to say, but like it was a really sliding doors moment at the start of that heat where he obviously drew Idolo, and Idolo ended up with the highest heat total of round one. The opening exchange, Idolo somehow managed to wrangle the first wave off him, and Ramsey had the inside, and Idolo just sort of put him in an uncomfortable position, and Ramsey ended up not going the wave, but it turned into like a 7-5 for Idolo, and then given the priority order, he did his lap and got back out. Next wave was an 8, or it was a 7 and then an 8-5 or something like that. But he was on the first two significant waves of that heat and Ramsey just found himself essentially battling for second place. And then to come in and have that happen to you, like it could have been, it was essentially the difference between him now missing the rest of the year and him progressing through with a round one win, like given he finishes those waves, which I'm sure he would have. So yeah, like really crazy moment there for Ramsey. And I mean, best case scenario, no ACL damage, no MCL damage, which would have put him out for months. Given it's just a dislocation, I know they are really painful and they can be a bit sort of troublesome, especially if you do have that ligament damage, but should be back for the challenger, you'd imagine, which is great. He will have the opportunity to jump straight back into it. So that's amazing that that's going to happen for him.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he's probably looking at 5 to 6 weeks out of action and then a bit of light rehab afterwards. I don't like the chances through the challenger, if I'm being honest. So this may, look, he's obviously going to have a different idea, and a lot of people will, but this could be the end of Ramsey. Yeah, who knows?
Hopefully not. I do. He's a character. He took so long to get there, and he ground his way up and finally made it, and has had a couple of pretty bad injuries the last few years, but he belongs up there, and hopefully he makes it back because I think the tour needs people like him.
Yeah, and just a quick honourable mention to Leo. Leo's been helping him out. I spoke to him this morning. He's been driving him to all his appointments and things like that. So shout out to you, Leo. Good on you, lad.
What a legend. Zach, on a lighter note, do you want to talk us through your fact of this week? Zach's fact.
Yeah, got a fun fact. I thought we'd go back to the roots of surfing, and it's actually a question, Finley.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think the first origins of surfing came, or even the first idea of surfing? Like, what country on earth?
I'm going to say Hawaii.
Yep, that's the same as everyone. Everyone thinks it started there, but the first kind of ideas of surfing, or the first ways in which they thought it came to fruition, was actually in Peru about 5,000 years ago. They were riding small waves in makeshift boats when returning from fishing.
Wow.
Yep. So Hawaiians made it like a big hurrah about it. They kind of like established it, but they weren't the first. It was the Peruvians with a big catch of barramundi in the back.
And this could be a controversial take, Zach, I'm not sure. Would you say that's the origins of surfing, or is that the origins of goat boating?
100% goat boating.
Goat boating.
Yeah, I've seen some of the crafts they were using, and yeah, they're pretty much canoes with fish in the back. So yeah, it's a bit of a long shot, but hey, that was they found it in a stone. It was carved in stone in a cave, and it was people standing up on a makeshift boat/goat boat riding a wave. So that's kind of the origins of surfing.
True. Okay, I've got it. Not that it's the origins of surfing, but two trips ago to Vanuatu, we've been there a couple of times now. We took some kayaks out in search of dugongs. Now they have a couple of resident dugongs that sort of swim around there and sort of come into the calmer waters to have babies, and they're really friendly creatures. And I was really hoping to see one, which we actually did. Not super up close, but we took some kayaks out, and they were just like single man sort of kayak setups, and I'd never goat boated before in my life. And we were paddling through this little sort of, it was almost like a river mouth, but it wasn't. It's kind of just basically was a lagoon that fed out to the ocean. And given it's like where the location of it, it's all like volcanic reef, and they do obviously have living reef too, but we're paddling out looking for these dugongs, and there was like a little reef sort of break that I don't think it's necessarily a wave, but it was breaking at the time. And I had the brilliant idea of trying to go and catch a wave over pretty shallow reef, mind you. And it was like dead set half a foot. And I was paddling, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go one. And I kind of like got to the top of a couple and went, nah. And then I was like, I'm going the next one. Paddled for it, missed it, turned around. There was a dead set of 3-footer broke, like just roguey out of nowhere, fully clothed, sunnies on, hat on, phone in pocket, everything. And I'm just going, oh my God, like I'm in so much trouble here. And it's dead set, like it's not deep at all. So if the kayak rolled, I was pretty much just going to be dragging my forehead across volcanic reef. And I just basically decided I was going to turn around, and I actually nailed it. I caught the wave, rode it through, and then it basically just went in deep water and paddled around to the applause of my girlfriend and Mason and Marley. They were just chilling there. So yeah,
You
it
get a
was,
Red Bull contract after that?
oh, mate, I felt like I deserved one. I actually, my sunnies are ruined. Can't remember if I lost my hat, but everything, like, it could have gone very pear shaped. But
It sounded like it went pear shaped if you lost those items. You are saying it went smoothly, and I just can't see your sunnies and hat getting flogged off and it going smoothly.
well, I didn't have a rock stuck in my forehead at the end of it, which was good. But we'll move on from that. We'll go to a bit of other surf news from down there. And you attended the Ain't That Swell live potty the other day, and they oftentimes do these live potties, but they had Mason Ho feature on it. Now you've got a bit of a sort of character reference for him from him based on that show, but he was on the commentary the other day with Ronnie, and he literally just signed a contract about an hour before, and I don't think it was sort of meant to be talked about yet. But Ronnie brought it up, and Mason was like, "Oh man, we can't talk about it. Like we'll leave it there. Like yeah, I've re-signed." And then like under zero no one said anything to him, and he just was like, "Yeah, it's 4 years." Like just he just feel like if you just let him sit there, he would have just told you every little detail, like down to where he signed and how much the contract was worth. Like if you let him keep going, he would have. How did he go at the live show?
One of the most entertaining evenings I've been a part of. Just before Mason went on, Ethan went on. So it was really good to see Ethan chat about a few things and provide his aspects and his perspective on a few things. But then quickly after, Mason came on, and mate, he's just meant to be like a radio host or a fucking talk show host. He can talk so much. Like, I think that Jed and Vaughn can talk. They could probably sell snow to an Eskimo as well, but they didn't get a fucking word in. Mason was just on a heater. So if you haven't listened to it already, jump on Spotify or wherever you listen to your potties and go and listen to that one. But he would just go on these rants, man, like a story, and he was so passionate about the story that he would often just stand up. They were all seated, but he would just stand up and he would start talking for 5 minutes while standing up, and then he would have these like epiphanies, and the story would split and go another direction, and then he'd go, "Oh fuck, like what was that again? Oh yeah." He'd go back to like the primary story again, and it was just like that, and just so much rogue shit. And like you said, he probably said things he probably shouldn't have. He was talking about some illicit substances and how Australia is so tight on that, and it's not in Hawaii and things like that. So yeah, if you're looking for a good laugh, go over to the Ain't That Swell podcast and give it a listen.
And you couldn't really have two different personalities, back to back, like Ethan into Mason Ho. That's a bit of a contrast there.
100%. You got definitely two different personalities and two different career paths. I think Ethan is, high performance, straight and narrow, and which is obviously paying dividends and working really well because he's the second best in the world. And Mason Ho obviously hasn't had the CT performances like Ethan, but just as many stories and experiences on his behalf. So yeah, definitely a good contrast of guests. They also had Ross Clark-Jones up there, who was funny to listen to as well. So the boys nailed it.
Absolutely. And then look, we don't really have too much else to talk about, but we are going to leave you with some pretty sort of exciting interviews we had throughout the week. Zach, we just had a pretty significant Swell event. Didn't really hit home at Lennox. And just so that people know as well, if you see a large sort of tropical low heading towards Lennox and you think there's going to be waves, there's not. It's probably the most overrated wave, and like I love the wave as well, but it is not a good place to surf when it's solid. Very rarely it turns on above 6 foot, but for the most part it turns into a fat burger that just sort of rolls down the point out to sea. So yeah, for anyone thinking that Lennox is going to be a good call, I don't think it is, and I feel like there are other alternatives around, like just skip Lennox because it is not a good wave. Where was good though, down in Sydney, few haunts lit up. Talk to us about that, Zach.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it seemed like every beach on the east coast of Australia, from the Gold Coast down to the south coast of Sydney, was 10 foot plus. While here at Bells, it's been pretty much 2 foot. So, and it's funny, a lot of the international surfers are like, "Well, why isn't it getting here?" We're like, "Because it's the fucking biggest island in the world. It's fucking a huge country. It just doesn't get around the bottom here." So there was a few questions like that, which was funny to see. But yeah, so there was a tropical low pressure system that actually turned into a category 1 cyclone just south of where you were in Vanuatu. And because of the proximity, it was so far off the coast, it really allowed for long period swell. Um, for anyone who doesn't really understand swells and they just see big swell, fuck, it must be pumping, is if you get these big systems close to the coast, it's chaos. It's just full force frontal fucking explosions. If you get these big events out at sea, it actually makes for really good surfing because it kind of has time to sort itself out. And that was what happened in this scenario for everyone on the East Coast. So it wasn't as big as Alfred, but way more organised. And so places like North Narrabeen, this pretty much all the beaches in Sydney were turning on. Dead Man's, Queenie Bommy, just to name a few. I know that the south coast of Sydney was lighting up as well, but we won't name any spots there because they're under wraps. But Finley, it looked like fucking North Narrabeen was almost mimicking Pipeline in all aspects. Like, even though it's not reef there, it looked just as fucking heavy.
If you watched the wave that Kobe Clements got in isolation over there, with no sort of context of where it was, just like a cropped version of that wave, you'd immediately go to Pipeline. Like, it looked every bit like a pipe wave, and to see that breaking over sand in an Australian beachy is insane. That never happens.
Yeah, correct. Because it's just so much things that need to be right. Like, obviously, big swell, good wind, good period, good tide, and then a good sandbank. So yeah, very rare. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was probably the best beach break wave I've seen in Australia to date. And I'm thinking west coast of WA. I'm thinking south coast up north, Stratty, all those things. I'm just saying right now, that's the best wave I've ever seen.
I have to agree with you there. Two guys though that we did manage to speak to, recent acquisitions of Team Mad Hueys. We've got Max McGuigan and we've got Oscar Berry. Now, they were getting stuck in down at ours, and both of them with some standout performances over the swell. We caught up with them yesterday, got them on the phone for a chat, asked them a few questions, and we're gonna sign off with those two because they gave us some really good insights of what was going on down there, like the quality of the waves, who was like how big it was essentially. Because it's easy to look at it and go like, oh, that's big, but like when you're actually out there, it's a different story. And Max especially, that bloke's a absolute maniac. He's backhand out at ours, just standing tall in a couple, which is insanity. And Oscar, who, like, I knew he was an amazing surfer. Like, don't get me wrong, he absolutely rips in sort of 1 to 4 foot and even bigger. But I didn't realize he had this side to his surfing as well. And I haven't actually listened to the Oscar interview yet. I'm going to be doing that while I'm editing. But did that come across in the interview with him, Zach? Was he sort of almost like surprised, or was he kind of like just pretty sure-footed about it all?
Yeah, without spoiling, he definitely mentions in there that this is a new flavor for him. So it was interesting to see how he approaches it and what he's been doing in the lead up to that. And yeah, Maxi actually broke 2 world records. So give those a listen, and yeah, you won't regret it. They're definitely the ones to look out for whenever the waves are getting big. And the Mad Hueys, obviously, 2 great picks. Their marketing is perfect around those guys and what they do. So yeah, give them a listen, and yeah, we're going to sign off.
Yeah, we'll leave you there, guys. They'll play as soon as we're done. So thanks for tuning in once more, and we'll see you next week. Just before I go, make sure to chuck us a follow on all the socials at the Largo Podcast, and chuck us a like and subscribe on YouTube, the Largo Podcast. Thanks for listening in, guys. We will see you next week.
Adios. Bye. So, Maxie, what's been going on?
Mate, not a lot, just surfing and just working. Loving the swells, East Coast slows. It's been good.
Yeah, so tell me about the bloody swell in Sydney. Was that the best swell that you can remember?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's right up there for sure. It's one in a 10 year. I think.
Yeah, well, for swells up home, it's usually when it gets that big, it's just blown out and fucking dog shit. But this one kind of looked like it was holding up, kind of clean and doable. Like those clips out of, I think it was North Narrabeen with Kobe Clements, like that looked like fucking pipeline.
Mate, I know. I come in from surfing and I seen that and I was like, wow, it would have been sick to go left for once. But yeah, like I don't know what it was. I think because the low pressure was sitting off the coast and there must have been a little high pressure on the land, so it brought the nice winds and it was yeah, it was a good setup for a couple of days there.
Yeah, fuck. It looked like it was best ever's, and it's funny because I'm just down at Bells for the comp, and yesterday was pretty small, and it looked like the entire east coast of Australia was 10 foot plus. So it's bittersweet down here, but I think you guys definitely got the best of it in Sydney. It didn't look amazing up north, but yeah, so it's good to hear that you guys, calling it the best well ever.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't believe it. It was yeah, I don't think up north got much or where you are down at Bells, but yeah, definitely Sydney through to like the northern beaches definitely got the full grunt of it, I think, and it was definitely up there with one of the best I've ever seen for sure.
Sick. So I think I saw some clips of two locations predominantly. Would that be Deadman's and ours that you kind of ruled the roost?
Yeah, Dead Man's was a couple of weeks ago, and ours was a couple of days ago.
Yep. So I think there's been two world firsts. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you've done both of them. The first one being towed in by a
Sorry, what
fishing.
was that?
Have you done two world firsts?
Two world first. Yeah, I think I got towed in on the boat out of ours, which was pretty interesting. Yeah, it was pretty rogue out there that day, and I looked at Dean. Dean looked at me. He said, let's throw the rope on," and I was like, "Yeah." I actually mentioned it to him a long time ago, and he was like, "Let's do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sweet, let's get it over and done with." And yeah, yeah, we got it done, and I think we nailed it with the backwash and everything. So
Mate,
yeah, it was pumping.
and this isn't like a little rubber ducky or something. This is a fucking proper fishing boat, right?
Yeah, mate, I think this thing's like nearly 8 meters long with a 300 V6 Yummy on the back.
That thing would turn very slowly and no room for error. So that is fucking bananas that you boys pulled that off so well. So, firstly, well done. But did it go smoothly? Nothing kind of went pear shaped?
Mate, no, I think everything we wanted to do, I think we nailed it the first take.
Yep.
Uh, Everything happened, the bomb come through, and because it was kind of capping that day and washing through. So we wanted to pick the right one. And with this one come through, and because I had so much speed from the tow rope and a lot of speed from the boat, I kind of just slingshotted myself into it and snowboarded down it for a bit, and everything just happened perfectly. And we only really needed one take, but we did another one just to be safe. And yeah, I wrapped it up after that. I was like, I'm done.
So is the jet ski going to be the primary method moving forward, or are you going to keep the boat in there?
I don't know. Everyone keeps blowing up about a jet ski out there, so I might have to keep the boat.
Yeah, after that last curious well, maybe you just get the big 8 foot boat out there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Clean a few heads up, eh?
Yeah, no, that's maybe the way we need to go forward. And
Yeah,
so there was another one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but first ever person to stand tall in a fucking huge one at ours, and then ride the wave all the way next to a jet ski without stopping and do a shoey.
yeah, yeah. Mate, I don't know about the world first of someone standing tall in one out there, but I think it's the world's first of getting barreled and then coming out into a shoey. So that was pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know. It's just another one of Dean's bright ideas, I guess.
Oh, the fucking marketing is perfect because here we are talking about it. So fuck, he's definitely switched on to know what's going to get talked about because yeah, it's never probably been done, and we'll have to probably give Guinness World Record Book a call. But my
Yeah,
question is, was that staged? Because I don't think I've ever been on a jet ski towing in someone with a shoe on. What was the shoe doing there?
mate, I don't know. you know that what the boys are like. They've always got shoes around to throw a beer in, you know.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, when you go out and you got your phone, keys, wallet, and maybe a fucking condom in the back pocket, they've got a
Yeah,
shoe just ready for our shoey anywhere, anytime.
yeah. That's their thing, you know. That's what they've got to have around to make what's happened. And yeah, Dean was just like, come and have a shoey, and I heard it and went raced over and just got it down my gulp.
Fuck yeah, a bit of a confidence clencher.
Oh, I definitely went down like a treat. Went down like water.
So what was it like out there? Was it kind of gnarly? Like, was that the one of the scarier sessions you've had out there, or was it kind of manageable?
Mate, to be honest with you, the Friday was even scarier. It was just big and wonky and washing through. The Saturday was a lot cleaner and a lot more manageable, a little bit smaller, but I don't know what it was, but it was just perfect. There was nice East bowls and it was just typical ours and it was scary, but it wasn't. It was nice, good ones, and yeah, you get good barrels. It was fun.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Standing tall on your backhand without grabbing both rails. I feel like I'd be grabbing both rails on a 3-footer. That shot of you standing there is fucking insane. So definitely hats off to you.
Yeah, thanks for that, boys. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for your time, mate. Appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll see you fucking standing tall in some more monsters soon, eh?
Thanks, boys. I'll catch you later. Thanks for having me.
Legend, brah. Catch you soon.
Right up.
Oscar Berry, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, Zach. How are you?
Very well as well, thanks. Just down at Bells, kind of escaping the weather. It's pretty miserable down here. But what about you? Whereabouts in the world are you?
Back on the Goldie now. Just picked up a few boards from getting repaired, and yeah, just cruising.
So boards that needed repair, did that have anything to do with charging some fucking huge cones over the last few days slash weeks?
These ones didn't. These ones were injured, doing some punts and stuff at home. Just in Yamba but yeah, the ones from the last week, they didn't make it.
I kind of thought that might have been the case. So, yeah, let's talk about that. Pretty mental run of waves over the last, what feels like a week on the Sydney coastline. Talk about that.
Yeah, nah, I had a sick time, eh? Maxi McGuigan called up the Huey boys and myself and said that it looks real good. And was like, yeah, you should come down and come surf ours. And he goes, yeah, it's looking real good for it. So they did just that, and we all went down there. I flew down the night before, which was, I think it was Thursday night, and got down there and yeah, had 2 days of probably some of the biggest, craziest waves I've ever surfed, I reckon.
I know it looked absolutely terrifying. So when you get the call like that, do you like, fuck, I don't want to go, but you just kind of have to?
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know. I went down to the south coast with my good mate Codes. That was only a couple of weeks ago now, and we got some pretty big waves down there. And I don't know, it might have lit a little spark in me. I kind of had the funnest time ever, and was real keen when I seen that swell and had Maxi call me. I was really excited, and I was like, yeah, fuck, I want to get a couple of big ones, and I want to get a big pit, and I was kind of like, I was real amped on it. So that was different.
Yeah, so you kind of sparked up a new side of your surfing, hey, in the big wave game.
Yeah. Hopefully not too far. I think my mum's pretty spewing on it, but
Well,
I've been loving it.
you've just joined a new team, the Mad Hueys, so you're going to fit in really nice there, hey?
Yeah, nah, it's been so good so far. Like I've been pumped on it. We've done a couple of epic trips already that have sort of been on the bucket list, and yeah, hopefully we can just keep the good times rolling. It's been epic.
Fucking know. So that was your debut at ours. What's it like as a wave?
Pretty terrifying, eh? When we come around the corner, I was like, we come around the corner on the skis and that, and it was that big day Friday, and I was looking at it, I'm like, there's no way that that's surfable. Like, if crew hadn't surfed it, you'd probably look at it and think, nah, like, not really gonna bother with that. And yeah, sure enough, it was the wave, and like my first thought was, wow, it is really close to the rocks. Like you sort of see the videos and that of it, and you think, it doesn't look too bad, but being like actually seeing it, it is on the rocks.
Yeah, and you've got 100 people on the headland. You got rocks to deal with. Maybe one of the worst backwashes on earth.
Yeah.
How did it go for you? Was there a few sketchy moments?
Well, because the first day was like 20 foot, I swear. It was so big. It was like borderline kind of too big. It was like a little bit washy, but still managed to, like, my first wave, it was my first wave I've ever caught there. I got whipped into it, and I'm coming down, and the wave was so big and had so much water in it, and it was just, I think because of the period too, it was like 14 seconds or something. There was so much water drawing off the reef, and I'm like, there was 4 ledges sticking out at me. I was like, where the fuck do I go here? What is the line? And I kind of just made it up, and I ended up sort of reading it pretty well, but it was so big that it, like, when the lip broke on the on the outside of me, it blasted whitewash up and out and across the like the exit of the pit, and I was
Hmm.
just like, where do I go here? Like, what do I do? And ended up the thing spat, and I like spat and like backwash sort of hit it, and I just got launched, and I just remember being in the air sort of like spinning around going, holy shit, here we go, and just got so smoked. But
Yeah,
it was sick.
right.
It was
So
sick.
any kissing of the reef or anything like that?
I didn't hit the rocks. I had a couple where I got pinned to the bottom, and the first one I was a bit scared because I didn't really know how deep it was.
Mhm.
So I felt the bottom and went, oh shit, like this could be bad. But it ended up being not too bad, and I come up, and yeah, I don't know. I was having that much fun that I kind of like all of a sudden was like not too scared of falling.
Yep. And
So I sort of,
what was the crew like out there? Was there some heavy hitters? I'm guessing there would have been some pretty big names that you were mixing it with.
yeah, a few of the a lot of the local boys were sort of showing us how it's done. Like it was sick to watch them out there. Like Maxie McGuigan is like, I was watching him on his backhand out there and how he deals with it, and I was just tripping, like he just reads it so well and just hates grabbing his rail,
Yeah, he's got a huge fucking nutsack. I know that.
Oh, he just loves letting go of the rail and just standing in these things. And I think the wave that I seen him get, he probably got wave of the Swell, I reckon, like got this big perfect one and just stood in it, just read it like a book and just stood in it. And so he had a sick one, and a bunch of the other local boys that were sort of kind enough to let us in and sort of let us take turns with him, and that they all got some doozies. It was an epic couple of days.
Speaking of standing up tall in one, you had a moment like that. So was that the best one of your life, you reckon?
I think it probably is. I kind of like, I don't know, I was so tripping on like what was all happening that I never really like took in the time to think that probably was the best wave of my life.
Yep.
Sort of that one that's getting posted around, that's been getting posted a bit. Like I think it probably is the best wave I've ever caught. And
Oh,
it's, yeah, I
don't
kind of
fucking
like,
blame you, mate. It was huge.
it was, but that wave especially, that was like, there was a bit of brown in my weddy, I reckon. Like, when I come off, I was like, yeah, I want to get real deep on this one, and put myself behind it. And as I've sort of pumped up to pull into it, all the water was drawing off it, and I reckon I could hear some of the paddlers just go, nah. And I was like, oh shit, like I must be deep here. And I could see it kind of like going real below sea level, and I was like, oh, I think I could be cooked here. And I've pulled in and sort of like, I think it just must have thrown like enough to sort of go over me. And then it was just like, as I was coming through, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to come out of this thing. And it was just relief when I got the shoulder, because I thought that I was going to fall at the start. And it's like, sort of all the boys were telling us like, just don't fall at the start. So that was like all that was in my mind when I sort of come off the bottom and first pulled into it. I was like, oh no, don't fall here. And I was pretty pumped when I made that one.
It's a pretty simple instruction. Hey, just don't fuck up the start and hope for the best.
That was it. I was pretty glad I didn't fall at the start. It was pretty mental wave, but you kind of have no idea like how skits they look because it's like you're only seeing what's in front of you. So it's like sometimes you're not, which is probably a good thing. You're not sure what's sort of behind you. So looking at it and sort of like looking at the waves and what they're doing is so much scarier than actually being on them and sort of reading your way through it. Like it's a lot more mellow, I reckon, when you're on the waves than when you're looking at
Yeah, gotcha. Well, that's good to know. I won't be doing it anytime soon, but it's good to know that if my life changes and I do happen to surf it, I'll be thinking about that. But any beers in the channel afterwards? I saw Maxi do a bit of a shoey. Were the boys teeing you into a couple of those?
Oh no, I was pretty locked in. I definitely didn't want to mix a few beers and then waves. It was a bit skids for me, but yeah, had a couple of beers afterwards and just sort of unwinded on the couple of days that we had. It was pretty sick.
Yeah, you must be on like a dopamine high at the moment, just chasing it.
Oh, such a high. I woke up this morning and I've kind of been pretty flat all day today, and I'm kind of thinking that might be why.
100%. After being big wave day for so long and now you're not finding any big waves, you're naturally going to plateau a bit.
Yeah, back to groveling. I got a It wasn't probably not the best prep for the Newey Changer, but um, heaps of fun.
Oh, fuck it. It was fucking unreal to see. And one last question for you.
Yeah.
What do you reckon feels better, having that stand tall moment where you're looking around, it's big and blue and fucking going psychotic and you're getting spat out, or getting the win on Fortnite while you're live streaming?
Oh, look, Fortnite's pretty good. Getting a victory royale feels pretty good, but nah, there's nothing better in the world. I don't reckon than a big throaty pit and just coming through it and like looking down at the boys and they're all like, I was looking because the boys had the animal parked out there as well. The Animal 7 was in the channel, and just seeing all the boys on the boat with their hands up was pretty friggin' mental.
Yeah, it's probably a sight I'll never see, but I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it felt fucking ridiculous. So good on you,
Yeah,
Oscar.
thanks, Zachy.